It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. With the confirmation of a third case of COVID-19 in Nigeria after a 30-year-old female tested positive to the virus, the federal government yesterday took additional measures to check the spread of the pandemic, banning foreign travels by public officials and suspending the National Sports Festival slated for March 22nd in Benin, Edo State. The ban affects all public and civil servants in ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs, and other government parastatals. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF, Mr. Boss Mustafa, at the inaugural meeting of the Presidential Task Force on the Control of the COVID-19 outbreak in Nigeria, said the decision was taken to scale the country's health emergency to the highest level and prevent further spread of the contagion. He asked civil servants to shelve all seminars, meetings, bilateral, multilateral, conferences and workshops slated for foreign countries. According to him, the ban remains in place until the situation of the containment of the virus abates. Meanwhile, reports say Nigeria's third case attended the UK summit with Canadian Prime Minister's wife. Incidentally, that summit, this Commonwealth Summit, was where it is claimed that the actor Idris Elba was also infected. So there appears to have been some kind of a super spreader incident at that summit, which is all the more reason why I sincerely hope the federal government revisits, as a matter of urgency, their policies with regards to travel restrictions and toes the line with other countries. It's not reinventing the wheel. A lot of creativity or imagination is not required at this point. Simply do what other countries have done and place bans. I don't see why our public officials are being banned from travel, but then the huge elephant in the room remains unaddressed. This third case in Nigeria, we are so lucky that, first of all, the lady in question arrived and followed directions, but they were simply directions. What about other passengers on that flight who may have been affected that did not follow those directions? There is no compulsion. It's really worrying, and we're just sitting here, we're so vulnerable. And even the fact that this is just the inaugural meeting of this COVID-19 response team in March, at the end of March is when you're having an inaugural meeting, when in the face of a global pandemic. I'm frightened, quite frankly. This is not inspiring any confidence whatsoever. Yeah.
Well, let's just say this. Yes, we've tried on various occasions to commend the Nigerian government to say that efforts were being made. We've had persons from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control on this program. We've seen the Minister of State for Health and the Minister of Health on television. We've seen efforts being made in Lagos State. But I think that all of that looks like just still joking with the crisis that we face. Because what Nigeria should be doing right now is to prepare for the worst.
Yes.
This half-hearted attempt to address the problem, I don't think would help us in the case of, a large outbreak. You will realize that, look, many of the persons who are, infected with coronavirus, they are asymptomatic. So we say we have seen about 3 cases so far. But the truth of the matter is that you may have such a large population of Nigerians out there who may already be infected, but who may be mild and who may not have shown any symptom and who will be spreading the virus. That's how bad the situation is. But I don't think that the authorities seem to realize the gravity of this yet. Now, the National Assembly yesterday was calling for a travel ban, right? But the only travel ban that the Presidential Task Committee, which was inaugurated more than a week ago, it took more than a week for them to hold a meeting. That doesn't show a sense of urgency. Now, the travel ban on civil servants and public officials is the Presidential Task Force telling us that the lives of public officials and civil servants are more important than the lives of Nigerians.
Thank you.
I think that if there's going to be any concrete, definitive steps, it should be something that will affect all Nigerians. Yes. But they keep advising Nigerians. They don't need to advise us. They should come up with concrete things. Look, in Italy, the whole of northern Italy was shut down. And the Prime Minister said, look, if you flout it, you will go to jail or pay a fine. So I'd like to see the Nigerian government come forward, for example, and say, as Egypt has done, as Ghana has done, as Kenya has done, as South Africa has done, ban certain flights from high-risk countries and say no flight from these countries must come to Nigeria. Instruct every Nigerian embassy or consular office all over the world, do not issue visa until further notice to anybody from anywhere in the world. We are shutting down, we are isolating. as India has done. Look at our population. If you have up to 100 cases of coronavirus in this country, we will be in serious trouble.
Yes.
The president of the Nigeria Medical Association has said, look, let us, in fact, shut down all our borders. Because he, as president of the Nigeria Medical Association, he cannot see that Nigeria can handle this kind of crisis. Even United Kingdom that has capacity has shut down.
It, yes.
Thank you.
Schools have been shut down.
Yeah.
There's no healthcare system on earth that can handle it.
But it's a good thing that the National Sports Festival has been put off, because that was a festival that was going to be attended by 11,000 athletes.
Yeah.
You know, it's also a good thing that the NYSC has shut down its Batch A 2020 orientation camps, and they've asked all the youth corps members to go home. It's a good thing that the National Open University of Nigeria has also postponed indefinitely its convocation ceremony slated for March 27. Then we need to close our borders.
It's a no-brainer.
Because we can't close borders because of rice and open borders for coronavirus.
It's ridiculous.
So is rice more important than human beings? If coronavirus comes in, who is going to eat the rice? If we say we want to increase the rice production. So I think that the review of strategy that Charles Ihedioha, the Director General of the Center for Disease Control, Ihekwazu, you know, the review of strategy that he talked about, I think that review of strategy should take place ASAP.
Immediately.
Before we begin to have other cases. And in any case, yesterday there was also a report that somebody, a contractor at the Dangote refinery factory, you know, was had also come down with symptoms. But I think this morning, Professor Abayomi of Lagos State tweeted that he has tested negative.
Honestly, and you know, for me, this was the
Sorry if I sound emotional.
No, not at all. You have the right to be very emotional,
point.
because at this point, this is a very serious situation. Yesterday, when the Director General of the NCDC joined us on the show, he said there was going to be a review literally right after his interview with us. And I was hoping that we were going to, especially seeing as the news broke between that time that there was a third case, I was hoping that the review was going to come out saying that, yes, we are going to impose a travel ban, especially on certain high-risk countries. At the end of the day, I'll echo what you've said. There are so many models to follow from, and that is what we should do. Look, we cannot underestimate how serious a huge outbreak in Nigeria would be. First of all, we probably already have one, if we're being very honest with us. First of all, there are probably several people carrying coronavirus in the country right now that have not been tested. This case of the 30-year-old woman that came in with coronavirus or had self-isolated and then tested positive for coronavirus, let's not forget that there were also reports on social media from a very close friend of hers, I believe his username was Ayobami, coming forward to speak about the fact that on Friday, he had put it out there that she was trying to get tested and couldn't get tested. He kept on going on over the weekend, complaining about the fact that they weren't getting responses from the NCDC, etc. And people were going at him saying, look, give them a break. And then it came out that really and truly everything that he was saying seems to be right. So that's another question that we really need to ask here about the standards that, or the quality of whatever sort of care that these people are being put into, because that question has been raised. This is a very serious issue right now. Do we have enough tests? Are enough people being tested? This is a very serious issue that we're facing, quite frankly, and I don't think that the government is doing enough, and everyone has the right to be emotional. No,
they're just not, because at the end of the day, once again, we see it was terrorists at some point, it was bandits at some point. The lives of Nigerians are just never the priority. Every other thing is taken into consideration before the lives of Nigerians.
Never the priority. I don't know when we're going to wait till.
So we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have more news headlines with our Arise business analyst, Rotas Odiri. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're now being joined by Arise business analyst Rotas Odiri for Business News. Good morning, Rotas.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys doing? Very, very passionate discussion there on the coronavirus and how it's impacting governments and how we should be responding as far as, you know, border closure and stuff like that. The U.S., though, this is very interesting news coming out. We're talking about universal basic income. The Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin announced a massive stimulus package of between $850 billion to $1 trillion in payments that are supposed to, a package that is supposed to cushion the impact of the coronavirus on U.S. citizens. And they're talking about $500 billion to $550 billion in direct payments or tax cuts, $200 billion to $300 billion in small business assistance, and then about $50 billion to $100 billion in airline and industry relief. So it's a massive package. But the interesting thing here is that the U.S. is actually considering about $250 billion of that in direct payments to their citizens. Andrew Yang, who is a candidate, who was a candidate on the Democrats, who was running for president, he's dropped out now. It's only Biden and Sanders that are remaining. He was campaigning on universal basic income, and his campaign was premised on the concept of giving every single American $1,000, which is UBI, Universal Basic Income. Nobody took him seriously. They essentially dismissed what he was saying because if you think about the population of the U.S., about 300+ million people, giving $1,000 to everybody would be quite huge as far as payments on the U.S. side is concerned. But Mitt Romney, who ran against Obama in 2012, he was former governor of Massachusetts, now senator from Utah, came out, was talking to reporters, and he was like, we should consider this as far as direct impact of the coronavirus on U.S. citizens. Give them money. And he made headlines, I think it was just early yesterday, he made these headlines. And then Mnuchin comes out, it's Steve Mnuchin, who is the Treasury Secretary, comes out and says, we are actively considering doing this. But the impact, one has to think about what the impact will be on the United States debt, right? I think total debt for the U.S. now is about $23 trillion, right? The U.S. economy is about 21, the GDP is about 21 trillion. So they've got a debt to GDP ratio of about 109%. So if they were to, consider doing this, it would have a massive impact. But the wider discussion with what the U.S. is doing is how do you, in the most impactful way, cushion your citizens to the impact of coronavirus. And this is something the rest of the world, Canada, Nigeria, Japan, everybody's thinking about. How do you impact them? And it seems like...
Nigeria.
Well, I mean, as far as considering how to impact your citizens, how to cushion them, it seems like giving people direct money is but how do they spend it, though? That's another question.
This is not the first time the U.S. will do this, to bail out citizens and businesses. During the recessions of 2001 and the recession of 2008.
Under Bush too, yeah.
Yes, there was also an economic stimulus package. And about a week ago, President Trump had announced that there will be coronavirus stimulus package. And the good thing about this is that the United States is taking a bipartisan approach. The idea that has been expressed, you mentioned Andrew Yang, you mentioned Scott Trump, they also Tulsi Gabbard. These are Democrats, but the Republicans are not saying because this original idea is coming from Democrats, we will not embrace it. In fact, a week ago, when the House of Reps considered this coronavirus stimulus plan bill, it was passed. It's now for Senate to pass it, and it also has the support of the White House. So what you see here is, well, we've been talking about social distancing, but we're also talking about social stability. We're also talking about political leadership. We're also talking about being proactive and putting your people first.
Yes.
And what is being done in the United States is also being done in the United Kingdom. The Chancellor, Sunak, has released the U.S. version of the British economic stimulus package, which will also include providing opportunities for even tenants,
rent.
On rent,
right.
Even for mortgage, a whole package just to make sure that you don't have social chaos as a result of coronavirus. Don't forget that in the U.S., with all the 50 states affected, with about 37 states having shut down businesses, hotels, and restaurants, people face the risk of losing their jobs.
Yes.
If they lose their jobs, they become a problem to society.
Exactly.
So government then intervenes and says, look, we don't want chaos. Because already in some states in the U.S., people are already stockpiling guns. Because of the fear that the situation could get so bad, they will be faced with social unrest. Some citizens are saying, well, we'll get guns ready. In case somebody thinks it's crazy and he wants to shoot.
But many of them want any excuse to get more guns anyway.
And allow that to happen.
Right.
The question is, what is the economic stimulus package that we have in Nigeria. I know many Nigerians will say Nigeria too should give us checks directly.
That's why I asked Nigeria when you said that, because I was going to
But
say
the Americans are getting checks in the mail from April, and in spite of that, they're still saying unemployment is going to rise by 20%. It's really worrying.
It will be
And
huge.
not
That's a
even
huge
talk of the
estimate.
recession.
Right.
Bloomberg,
Thank
53%.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll take a short break now, and we'll be back with our sports analyst, Aaron Akerejala. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Joining us now with sports stories is Arise News sports analyst Aaron Akerejala.
Good morning, Doctor.
Morning.
You're quite captivating this morning. Good
Thank
morning.
you, Aaron.
That came with like a tone today, you know?
And this morning, the news actually broke yesterday, as a matter of fact, that one of the celebrities, superstar in the NFL, Tom Brady, will finally be leaving the New England Patriots after 20 years. He joined the New England Patriots back in 2000 as a sixth draft pick, and ever since then, he's gone on to do great things with them. Won 6 Super Bowl titles, of which he was MVP in 4 of those Super Bowls, won 3 NFL MVPs, and of course, more than ever before, the NFL has been kind to him, and the New England Patriots have been kind to him because he's made a whopping $245 million in that particular time, not minus endorsements, minus other activities, and certainly, of course, he and his wife, the Brazilian bombshell, Gisele Bündchen, have already said their goodbyes, and likely, we hear that it's not been confirmed, but likely he will be going to the Tampa Buccaneers, and there they're offering him a $30 million salary per annum, because the New England Patriots had told him, listen, we want to give you a contract extension. It will only be for 1 year, and you will have to take a pay cut, because right now there are a lot of people earning quite a lot in the New England Patriots, and because of the salary cap in the NFL, he cannot earn as much as he would want to earn. And maybe he looked at it and he looked at his family and decided to go for the money. After 20 years, they all said goodbyes, and that fairy tale has finally come to an end.
How are the fans reacting?
The fans are quite grateful. He brought 6 Super Bowl titles. Himself and Bill Belichick, the coach of the team, they've been quite phenomenal. They've been father and son figures over the years. He's never been coached by any other person than Bill Belichick. So certainly they'll be grateful that they've seen Super Bowls time and time again. They are one of those Super Bowl royalties of this generation when it comes to the NFL. So Tom Brady has seen it all, done it all. It's about time to make money.
By the time he leaves, this will probably be the biggest steal in the
yes, it will be.
in the history of the game. But he goes, as you've pointed out, with his excellent record, and is in fact considered perhaps the best quarterback
of all time. Yes,
in,
of all time.
in the game.
Yes.
You know, and we hope that when he gets to the new environment, he will be able to sustain that.
This is retirement for him.
And tempo.
Yeah.
This is retirement for him.
He's 42, yeah.
Oftentimes,
Yes.
you know, the environment also matters. The
Yes, it
ambience matters. The chemistry matters. And we've seen, you know, some footballers, they move from, you know, a glorious sport, they move to another sport, and then they may not be able to
replicate.
You know,
well, he has nothing.
The magic.
And he has nothing to prove at this point.
Well, he's already 42. So at 42,
he's aiming to retire at 45. So he's just going to be
Just cash out for like 3 years.
chocoladas
so
and just enjoy himself.
you have no problems with him
No, I have no
following the money.
No, this, I would say follow the money. Certainly, to maintain that wife, it doesn't come cheap. As a matter of fact.
Excuse me.
I'm just saying. And to maintain his own lifestyle.
Aaron,
because he's
what a way to downplay the
Hollywood
conversation.
royalty. To maintain that lifestyle of his
can I
and his
just say,
wife.
I hate to interrupt people, but I have to say, his wife is the most successful model in history.
Without a doubt.
Thank you.
She's
She
a
doesn't need maintaining.
Without a doubt.
She's a multi-millionaire. She
But
does
they
not need
live
maintaining.
like royalties.
Yeah, but she does not
they can
need.
cope, trust me.
She doesn't
She
need
can afford
That
maintaining.
is the most
is the
successful
point.
model in the world for the past
Exactly.
like, 10 years.
You can't downplay what she has worked for. She
No, I'm not
she
doing
does not
that.
need maintaining.
No.
That's the point. She
She's
does. She can
highly
maintain
successful,
herself.
it
Don't get
must
it
be
twisted.
said.
Don't get it twisted.
Take it.
You know.
I've lost the battle this morning. Clearly,
battle,
my
it's
hands
a
are
fact.
off. My
It's a
hands are
fact.
off.
Just
But
a point of correction.
before we go, also quite sad that as it is right now, one man talking about Kevin Durant has been tested positive amongst 4 NBA players of the Brooklyn Nets that have been tested positive to the coronavirus, and he joins a long list of people in the NBA that have actually been tested positive. Of course, very famous of them was Rudy Gobert for the sheer stupidity that he actually engaged in until now. He still says that he regrets his action, because who does that?
What was he thinking?
That's quite careless of him.
I'm glad he apologized, which is always great when people do that, but it just goes to show all the misinformation. I think what was in his own mind...
Take it serious.
Yes. What was in his own mind was all these people thinking, oh, it's just a conspiracy theorist, and that they are the woke ones, because they know that it's not a big deal. Yes, he went back and touched all the microphones. Huge mistake.
Suicidal. But in any case, the big point here is that coronavirus does not respect anybody.
Exactly.
Whether you're a celebrity or you are an ordinary citizen.
Exactly. Whether you're black, white, Asian, whatever. Thank you so much,
Aaron.
It was a pleasure.